You may or you may not know that you can convert your food waste and organic manure to soil by composting. But do you know that you can also compost textiles?
That's what we're about to find out today at the Rosebud Continuum. Keep on watching. Welcome to the Sustainability Nugget podcast. I am Rarasu Maraibi.
And I'm Tosin Folorunsho.
On this podcast, we learn about sustainability by discussing various related topics while focusing on three pillars: the economy, the society, and the environment. Hello guys, welcome back to the pod. Today we are at Rosebud Continuum and we're here to talk to Ericka Leigh, who is going to be teaching us all about composting textile. And we also have Tosin behind the camera, so you'll be hearing her voice and you'll also see her through the episode. So to start off, please, can you introduce yourself and tell us about your background?
Yes, I'm Ericka Leigh. I am a compost enthusiast. I am an independent researcher currently. I do a lot of things. I recently joined Remake as an ambassador, which is a fashion advocacy organization. I have spent a lot of time the past 10 years or so in the sustainable fashion space, coming at it from different angles. And I had a bow tie business for a while, which led me to composting. And I'm sure we'll get into that story in a second. And I also create content on LinkedIn.
Nice. How did you get into this path? Like, what sparked your interest into sustainability and even specifically sustainable fashion?
My fashion journey, I came to fashion through mental health. My best friend was killed in a car accident in 2010. That also led me into sustainability. I did my undergrad in theater arts and I was doing stand-up comedy for a while. So not that the planet and the sustainability wasn't important to me, but I had been focusing my career in another direction at the time of her death. So advocating for the environment was something that was important to her, and it was a torch that I could carry on in her absence as a way to stay connected with her. So that's how I got into sustainability. Also, after she passed away, my fashion journey began because I'm not one who can really fake it until I make it in terms of, adopting an attitude. Like, imposter syndrome is real. Mm-hmm. But for me, I could fake it till I made it by wearing my favorite dress or doing my hair and sort of playing with fashion to improve my mood, even though I was grieving, and it was a way to help me to give a little boost in my day.
Yeah, definitely fashion helps with our emotions, and I'm so glad that this part actually helped in the process of grieving your friend and has even evolved into something greater than you. So you, like you said, you make content on LinkedIn, and I've seen your content, and that's where I saw that you're composting textiles. So I know about composting, but what I know about composting is people compost food waste or organic animal droppings. Well, I saw you're composting textiles. How does that go? I want you to start off by explaining the traditional composting and then taking it to textile composting.
Yes. Compost, for anyone who may not know, is the breakdown of organic material. So all of your food scraps, banana peels, eggshells, coffee grinds, etc. The parts of even the food, not just the parts we don't eat, like the peels and cores. So that's your green matter or your nitrogen source, and then you have your brown matter or carbon source, which here in Florida we have a lot of oak leaves. They're a great source of carbon. Newspapers, cardboard, other paper items are a good source of carbon. Clothing also counts as a source of carbon, so you can't compost clothes without also composting food. And there's your green brown matter combination. And composting is really just the process of these organic materials breaking down, decomposing, and turning into something else, the end form of which is really healthy soil. And composting is great because when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or any other big store, the fertilizer and the soil blends are generally NPK or nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. So when you have compost, you have zinc and vitamin A and iron and calcium and all of these other nutrients. And compost is sort of like a multivitamin for the earth because it has all of these nutrients. So it helps restore land that may be depleted of nutrients due to any number of things, overtilling, excessive pesticide application.
So you were talking about textiles, specifically what kind of textiles are, I guess, compostable.
Right.
Yeah.
Natural fiber textiles are compostable, but a natural fiber textile would be linen, cotton, silk, wool,
Right.
bamboo sometimes, plant-based hemp.
Yeah.
Or animal-based fur. You can compost like a fur coat or leather.
Cool.
Of course, it takes a lot longer.
Yeah, okay.
But if it came from the earth, from a plant, or if it came from an animal, it can be that material, that fiber can be composted. No polyester, no polycotton blends. Those don't break down.
Yeah.
Blended materials don't.
Okay.
Even when you compost a cotton t-shirt, most of the thread and the hem is polyester thread or nylon thread.
Yeah.
So I have
and the tags.
The tags, yes. So I have pulled out like perfect chain stitching from the compost because the shirt will break down, but the thread doesn't.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and I'll show you that in a little bit.
That was really my major concern when I saw textile composting, because I know, like, although we have cotton, but we also have like some form of plastic, which like the polyester, PET. You talk about the threads, but what about like the dyes used in clothes? How does that affect like the composting?
I think there's still some work that needs to be done on dyes, but there's a soil scientist who I've been following for a while. His name is Dr. Oliver Knox. He's in Australia. He has composted clothes and he's working on a big denim composting project with Cotton Australia right now. We corresponded a little bit ago and he said that he didn't find that the dyes had huge impacts in the soil. My theory on this is that, like, how many times have you worn this shirt? How many times have you washed it? How many times has it, like you've been caught in the rain or run a marathon in it or whatever? And like some of the integrity of the dye is compromised with each wear, with each wash. So it's not as potent as when you first get it. More testing needs to be done in that area specifically, but based on my research and based on some research from other people who are doing these experiments, it is of lower concern right now.
I think we should go ahead to see like the sample, like where you compost, to just really understand like how it's being done. So can you take us there?
Sure. So I've been here at Rosebud for 3 years composting. And to date, I have composted like 800 pounds of clothes.
Oh, wow.
Which I think is like 350 kilos-ish. The average American throws away, I think it's 82 pounds of clothes a year from the last statistics from the EPA, which is roughly like your regular outdoor trash can, like the big bin, not your 32-gallon bin indoors. If that's 80 pounds, like a dozen of those big trash cans.
Where do you get like the clothes you compost? Do they donate it?
Some of them are donated. A lot of them came from my closet, from friends' closets. I still have a bow tie business, although making bow ties hasn't been my main priority for the past few years. I learned about compost when I was a student, and we all went to the same master's program at different years. But I learned about composting when I was a student and how they were using it in land amendment applications. And I just thought that was so cool and like so easy. Why are we not doing this more?
Yeah.
It's a free resource, essentially, food waste. And it has all of these benefits, like I was saying earlier, with how nutrient dense it is, how it can restore damaged lands. And then the EPA did a project where they used compost applications in, I think it was Oregon, after a forest fire
Oh, okay.
to re-nourish the
Yeah.
land and return some nutrients back to the
Mhm.
earth. So I was like, why are we not composting more? Like, this makes so much sense. So then I started my bow tie business when I was a student, was upcycling. So I started making bow ties after my grandfather passed away.
Mhm.
And again, this is like the mental health
Yeah.
fashion
Yeah.
connection.
Mhm.
For me anyway.
Yeah.
My grandfather used to wear bow ties. It was his signature accessory. So for his funeral, I made a bunch of bow ties for my cousins and I to wear. And, you know, because it's like 9 p.m., the funeral's in a few days, we
Mhm.
didn't go to the fabric store. So my mom and I made bow ties at home and with old pajama pants and a pillowcase. And I sort of started the bow tie business from there. And I was getting clothes from people who were
Mhm.
like, I love this shirt, I love this pattern, but it has a stain on it, or it's too small. Can you make it into a bow tie since you were, you know, like did the other ones that way? So I started upcycling a lot of fabric and people were giving me a lot of clothes with cool patterns on it. And I realized that there was way more fabric out there than could ever be upcycled into bow ties or quilts or anything else you can make. So then I started composting my fabric scraps. So that's where a lot of it began, was my fabric scraps, and then other clothes in my closet that were too small, and then clothes from friends when they were moving or what have you. Old cotton towels, old cotton sheets we've composted. So here it has been bigger and smaller at different points in time, but here.
So first off, is it like different from how you would do like the regular food waste, or you even combine food waste with it?
Yes, I definitely combine food waste with this, because the cotton counts as a brown matter, as a carbon.
Oh,
so
okay.
you have to have
the
food waste and the brown waste
Oh, okay.
combination.
Yeah.
The nitrogen carbon combination for food waste or for compost. So I compost food scraps. I save my food scraps throughout the week. I put them in an old protein powder container and bring them here every week and compost them.
I can see a fork. Is that?
Yes, this is
a composting fork.
Yeah, this is a wooden spoon, a wooden fork that we're composting.
So is that also brown matter or?
Exactly.
Yes, any like woody material, if it's mulch or paper, cardboard.
Yeah, so like I'll say like this is the first time I'm hearing like the green and brown matter for compost. I guess because I'm not really like familiar with compost. I do more of the biogas, which is anaerobic.
Yeah.
So but like food waste or fruit or whatever, these are plants, right? And they're also carbon source. So I'm finding it hard to understand like the difference between the brown and the green matter, because cotton is a plant, right?
This is a great question.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have a very scientific answer.
Yeah.
I am not a soil scientist. That is not my background.
Yeah.
I focus more on waste management.
Yeah.
But from my understanding, the carbon matter is more from like dead sources.
Oh, okay.
So like the oak leaves that have already fallen, mulch that's already been processed, and the green matter or the nitrogen are like the tops of your carrots, where it's still like fresher and has, eventually it will turn into a carbon source when it's dried and shriveled. It has to go through whatever that process is.
That makes sense.
That's my understanding.
Okay, sure.
I might be wrong.
If anyone knows more, please tell us in the comments.
Yes, please. Feel free to come at me in the comments.
Yeah.
With that, because that's not my forte. So I composted a pair of Birkenstocks.
Oh wow.
My old sandals. The cork footbed has totally disintegrated.
So is that leather?
This is leather.
Oh, okay.
And this is treated leather, obviously, because they're shoes. But I've also had these shoes since like 2002, 2003. So, you know, they're 20 years old. This is an experiment. They haven't like broken.
It doesn't look like it's even started.
No.
Do you think, are we like cutting it up?
You know, I used to cut up fabric when I first started this, and I didn't notice a difference.
Oh, okay.
In the speed of which it broke down, if it was cut up or not cut up.
Okay.
So to save myself time, I just stopped cutting stuff up because it wasn't making a difference.
Okay. And about how long does it take? Well, on the average, the fastest that you've seen break down, how long did it take?
The item that broke down the quickest, I would say, was a fur otter pelt that I got at an estate sale many years ago. The fur broke down in like 2 months. I have composted wool. In Florida, people don't really have a lot of wool, so I don't have a big sample for that. But the wool, because it's like a looser weave than silk or cotton,
Okay.
it broke down a little bit quicker in like 4 or 5 months. Cotton broke down generally between 4 and 6 months, and the silk broke down in like 9 months.
Wow.
Because it's a much tighter weave.
Okay.
And I have also composted denim pants in like a canvas tote bag. So even though that's cotton, because it's so much thicker than a cotton t-shirt, that took like 9 months, 10 months to decompose.
So the tighter the weave and the bulkier it is, the longer it takes to break down.
Yes.
Okay.
In my experience.
Okay. Do you have to add, apart from food, like are there any additives or anything that you have to add to it to
No.
compost?
I have a lot of worms and grubs and roaches and other organisms in the compost.
But did you add that specifically, like to the compost?
The animals?
Yeah.
No, they just came.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because I'm like,
Yeah. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
okay.
it is a good food source for them. It's what they like.
So do you do any tests? I know you said you're an independent researcher, right? So I'm just wondering, like, apart from like composting and seeing it break down, do you do like any specific tests to compare it with like the just traditional composting of food waste?
I did get a test to test the nutrients that were present in the soil. The textiles don't, like, there's no nutritional value, so they didn't add anything to the soil.
Okay.
But I eat eggs for breakfast almost every day, so I had a lot of eggshells, which are really rich in calcium, and it depends on what you eat. Like any compost, I think the nutrients present are going to depend on what you put into it. So I had really high volumes of calcium and magnesium and zinc, because those are things that I eat a lot in my diet. And of course there's vitamin C from orange peels and different things.
Okay. So this looks like the freshest, but like, is there anything going on in this?
So we composted fabric in 2 different ways. We made a pile, and this is a very small pile right now. We have had it bigger. And then we laid fabric down as like landscape fabric instead of the plastic landscape fabric that is very common. So we put, to keep the weeds down, and we do have some weeds popping up, but this was another way that we could compost fabric, was using it as like a weed barrier. And you can see here the thread from this shirt, and like perfect chain stitching.
Nice.
So these are all items that I have pulled out of the compost that have not broken down. So you can see there's chain stitching from shirts, and then
And the tags, and what's this?
This is wool, but this is like a poly blended wool.
Okay.
So the wool
It broke down.
yeah, like it was eaten a little bit from it, but not the whole thing. This is a pair of underwear. This is the waistband.
Oh yeah.
That
Elastic.
Yeah, the elastic, the tags, some more elastic. And this is a poly cotton blended shirt. So this has sort of been sitting here. This is mostly polyester. There's a creature.
Oh well.
And this is sort of interesting. This is a poly blended shirt. So the cotton is all gone, was eaten.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
really interesting.
and then the polyester, this is
yeah,
just like a netting. And people often ask me about the screen print, and you know, like, what about that? Because it's mostly plastic or polyester also. Yeah, this is another poly cotton blended tank top, and the
Oh wow.
cotton was all eaten off.
And it just looks like a
It just looks like a
like
you could
a
wash
mesh.
this and wear this right
literally,
now.
that's what I can.
Yeah, another pair of underwear. The lace trim, was like elastic and spandex and polyester base, so it didn't break down. The tag didn't break down. Victoria's Secret.
Interesting.
Yeah, this is a bed sheet from my childhood, from when I went to summer camp.
Wow.
And I was born in the 80s, so this is probably
This is old.
This is old, and this is a lot of polyester.
Yeah.
And it just got dirty, but it didn't break down. So the polyester material is pretty easy to sift out because it's still there.
Right.
Like the otter pelt totally decomposed. I've had other cotton t-shirts totally decomposed. I've had a lot of things totally decomposed.
Yeah.
Because I go through this every week, so I know what's in there. I know what I'm pulling out.
I think that this also just confirms the issue with plastic and polyester in general, where it's like it takes a long time to break. It doesn't break down.
I don't know about you, but I feel like I like to call it textiles in the wild, but just clothing on the side of the street, like a shirt in the park, a pair of shoes by the interstate, a pair of pants, and some of it is probably from transient people, some of it's probably from like blowing off of dump trucks on their way to the dumps, who knows. So I put this pair of shorts here to see. I didn't bury them on purpose because I wanted it like, this is how it is out in a park, this is how it is on the side of the interstate, this is how it is just like out in the
just
wild.
out there.
And they've faded a ton. We got a really big rain yesterday, so they're very damp, but the color has faded so much. Maybe you can see a little bit inside the pocket.
How long has it been here?
These shorts have been here for like 6 months now.
Wow.
And they're 100% cotton, or so the tag says. I wore them to death. I got holes in the crotch, and I anticipate finding all this thread eventually, but they didn't fit anymore. They were getting more holes. I wore them for 10 years. I love these shorts.
I also love just the story behind, it's like wearing something and then seeing its end of life, like just seeing how it goes through, breaking down.
Yeah.
It feels, I don't know how to put it, like poetic kind of.
Yeah. It's breaking down a little bit.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I just had this conversation with a friend recently because I have a pair of pants in my closet. They're one of my favorite pair of pants. I wore them for like 10 years. They just don't fit anymore. And I want to give them away, but I can't donate them because I don't trust that. I can't risk them going to a landfill.
Yeah, so I had a question about like the life cycle of the fabric before it actually ends in compost, because composting is like an end of life.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And in recycling, we usually preach reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yes.
So how do you think about that? Like, do you just compost it at the end of your life cycle for the clothes, or do you think giving it out for reuse before it ended in composting is the right?
In the sustainable fashion space, I think they always say anything to extend the life of the garment is the most sustainable. So if you can give it a second life or third, fourth life, then that is the first option. I have these pair of pants that I love, but they don't fit anymore. Like the shorts out there, I got a hole in the crotch from so much wear. I patched it up. And I want to give them to someone, but I don't want to donate them because I don't trust that
it would actually end up with someone.
Yeah, like, and I feel like it sounds a little silly sometimes, but I think we all do it. We have these emotional attachments to clothes, to inanimate objects. And so like the thought of these pants sitting in a landfill is too much for me to bear. Like I need them to have. I would rather them go to someone who will wear them and love them. Like them sitting in my dresser drawer not being worn gives me joy, even though I can't fit them anymore.
Yeah.
But the thought of them in a landfill like makes me want to cry, even though they're just a pair of pants.
Yeah. I think that in the context of the current norm that we have right now, it's you don't wear clothing for that long anymore. Like this pair of pants you're talking about, you probably had them for the past
10, 15 years.
Right. So it's like comparing that to a clothing item that usually most people only wear clothing for like 6 months, 3 months.
Yeah.
And then we pass it on. And the waste movement itself it's uncertain where your material would end up. So you could say, and that's why it's recommended, like giving it a longer use would be either trying to repair or mend it if the quality is good, of course.
Yes.
Because that's why most of them get discarded quickly too. So it's like if it really is a good quality, yes, you tend to have that emotional attachment to it. But it's also something that's currently kind of fading away in the current culture that we have, where it's like just throwing away. It's easier to part with stuff than to actually keep them for a longer time. So I think depending on the person or like what kind of clothing you have, there are different pathways where we can't really say which is the best option right now.
Yeah, and what I've gotten from what two of you've said is like the length also matters, because if I get a coat and wear it for just 1 year and then give it out and the person wears it for 1 year, that's like 2 years. But if I had a coat for like 10 years, that's like a longer life cycle. And like you said, like the culture has changed, because like when we're younger, right, it also lasts for like for me, like I had clothes passed down to me.
Yes.
Because they were like
clothes that my mom would wear,
Yeah.
like my cousins, I would have clothes given to me
Yeah.
from them, or
Sure.
even family friends.
Yeah.
So that all of that culture is changing, where people even be. It's like trying to teach people to do what we used to do in the past.
Yeah.
But the problem also is just going back to quality. It's like
exactly.
sometimes some clothing that I don't want to give some of them away, not because it's wrong, but because I just don't trust the quality. Like it doesn't look
Yeah.
good enough to give out anymore.
And that, like, it makes your problem someone else's problem.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like, this might last you one wear or one wash. Like, that's not really
Yeah.
good.
So I think the other question I have is about like benchmarking, or let's say what's being done in industry. I know you mentioned earlier about the professor that's
In Australia.
Australia doing research. So I'm wondering, like, if there's someone like that, is this being done in like different places, or is it like just in the research stage, or are people doing it like on an industrial scale or small scale business?
I haven't found where it's being done on an industrial scale. Dr. Oliver Knox, the soil scientist in Australia, he's doing it. The Cotton Australia project is the biggest that I have come across, where they're intentionally seeing the life cycle of clothes. So they're focusing on cotton denim pants and composting them in the field, and then growing new cotton from that field. So like closing the loop, having a
So
That's-
close-
yeah.
Oh, nice.
yes.
That's really interesting.
Like in the US, we do recycle denim. Levi's has a program where they will accept denim, and I don't even think it just has to be Levi's denim, and they'll have a partnership with whoever, and they pulp the denim and make building insulation with it, so that eventually I think the building insulation does go to a landfill, but that gives it, like 10, 15 more years.
But that's like downcycling.
Yeah,
just
but a really
yeah.
effective use of
Yes.
downcycling
Yes.
than, like rags for cars or cleaning
Right.
rags. Like a
Right.
lot of clothes get
Just
sent to the
incineration.
rag trade industry, and then they get cleaned and, maybe last a week, a month, and then get
thrown out. Yeah.
landfill because
Yeah.
they get too dirty with oil or what have you.
Can you tell us like what you think the environmental benefit of composting fabric is?
Yes. So I sort of think of composting clothes as the silver bullet answer for solving the climate crisis, which of course there is no silver bullet answer. But if I could name one thing, this is what it would be. And I say this because a lot of clothes go to a landfill. the majority of clothes are getting sent to a landfill. There are up to 100 billion garments produced every year. There are only 8 billion people on the planet. It is probably the only industry where supply far exceeds demand.
Yeah.
And even in the luxury fashion space, like this shirt is $200. Like, it's not. It was made with slave wages and, like human rights violations, and you can get it again. Like, this material is not inaccessible. So there's like a wrong kind of scarcity mindset, I think, when it comes to at least luxury clothing.
Yeah.
Not all clothing, because fast fashion, etc. So 85% of clothes are thrown away, either incinerated or landfilled. 15% go to the secondhand market. And we've all been to a thrift store. It is packed, full of clothes. Thrift stores are inundated with clothes. They couldn't even sell everything that they receive because they are just flooded with clothes. And almost, some stores, especially like the big box, Salvation Army, Goodwill, those big box thrift stores, sometimes they still send up to 40% to a landfill because people don't always donate their best items. So 85% of our clothes are going to landfill or shipped overseas, which makes our problem someone else's problem. Africa receives the majority of US and European secondhand clothing, in Central America as well. In all of these transportation, I feel like the clothing sort of gets like downgraded a little bit more because it's stuffed in this big plastic bale and it's damp and what have you. So pause right there. And then landfills are so toxic because it's the combination of inorganic and organic material not being able to break down properly. The organic material in landfill: food waste, yard waste, cardboard, paper, natural fiber clothing. 50% of what goes to a landfill could be composted, but it's in a landfill buried under tires and plastic bags and toilets or whatever other random stuff, and it's not being able to break down. Compost is a living thing. It is full of organisms. We saw the roaches and worms and whatnot just digging through that little pile there. It needs air to break down. In a landfill, none of those organic items are breaking down because they're not getting aerated. So that's creating methane that's contributing to global warming. So if we can reduce our landfill input, if we composted everything that we sent to a landfill, we would be way better off. And due to a lot of industrial farming methods with big monocropped fields, over-tilling, pesticide application, we've degraded a third of our topsoil with these unsustainable modern day industrial agricultural practices. So if we took 50% of our waste from a landfill, composted it, that creates jobs in the green economy, creates an end product that you can use, and you can sell it to farmers. You can sell it. I think it should be the municipality. I think there should be city-run or county-run municipal composting facilities. The onus is all on the customer, the end user, to do the right thing, to donate it, to take it here, to do whatever. But it's like, I appreciate that people think we as individuals have this much power, but we can't solve a problem.
The system has to change so it's easier for us to.
The infrastructure is not in place.
So
how can we do the right thing if the infrastructure is not there for us to do it? And I think we need like statewide or, every like tri or even quad county can have one municipal composting facility where they take food waste, take natural fiber. And we still need Goodwill, we still need Salvation Army. So before those items get baled and shipped to Ghana or to Honduras, they can go to this facility, be sorted between natural fiber and synthetic fiber, and then go to a municipal composting facility. And again, this is creating more jobs. And people already know how to sort clothes. Like, we have people working in thrift stores determining with donation they receive, this is good quality, we'll put this on the floor, this we're gonna put here. So not reinventing the wheel. It's already a skill that people have and are using every day in, you know, their job or volunteer job.
Yeah.
And at the municipality, you create the compost, you have this finished product, you can sell it to farmers, you can sell it to nurseries, you can sell it to the forestry department, you can sell it to parks and recreation when they're doing new. So it's a revenue stream. It pays for itself. It's not just, speaking of economics, like you were talking about earlier, it's not just, oh, we created this soil, you know, like pat ourselves on the back for doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Like you can make it a revenue stream and make it worth it. And people pay for sewage and they pay for their trash pickup in their utility bill. So if you just add another line item where you have an organics recycling, and instead of, you know, like you split your trash from the trash bill and then there's another line item on your utility bill, like $5 a month or whatever, it's not breaking the bank. It pays for the service. And then you have, like San Francisco, they have 3 bins. They have the trash bin, the recycling bin, and the organics bin. So, you know, like you put
your food waste in the organics bin.
And I wouldn't trust individuals to put their cotton clothing in the organics bin. I think they can continue to donate or do whatever. I think going to where the thrift stores are and where you can get a lot of clothing at once is the best bet. I don't think we need to go to every individual's house and collect clothing. Yeah. We can go to where the big piles of clothes already are.
I'm just like, wow, like you've given like a proper recommendation on how like composting textiles should be designed on a like statewide, you know, like system-wide
scale. And I think the one thing I really love about what you said is not putting more responsibility on the consumer, because just in the environmental movement or sustainability movement, it's always like, you know, make responsible choices, responsible consumption, which is a part of the solution.
Yes.
But we need infrastructural change. We need system-wide change. We need like brands, governments to producers to change. Like
this is the top-down, bottom-up approach.
Yeah, it has to be like, don't bring all the solutions downstream. If like, that's the word to use. Like there should also be things happening upstream, and also like with just the way most of the textiles that we even produce now, 70% of what we produce is made from polyester. So the amount of organic material for clothing that you have is actually lesser than we used to have before. And so when you think about that, it's like if you're placing the responsibility on the consumer to compost their clothing, it's like you have to do this whole, you know, just educate them on this is cotton, this is blended, this is it just gets
And then, you know, like, okay, I live in an apartment. I don't have an outdoor space. How am I going to compost this?
Right.
You're asking someone to do a lot and then take a lot of time out of their day. Or they have kids and, you know, like they got to go to soccer practice or whatever. And like, you can't do all this and go to the community garden on the weekend when you have a game or when you have work because you're scheduled, or you know, whatever the case is. It's like traditional recycling, you know, like, oh, all you have to do is put it in the right bin, but then the infrastructure is not in place to recycle glass or to recycle this aluminum can like, I would love to do the right thing, but there's no place for me to do it. So this is where policy really comes in. In circular economy, I think this is the role that where it can make a really big difference is by helping set up that infrastructure and going to where there's already a lot of clothes. Like just make one partnership with Goodwill. You know, like you don't even have to get every Goodwill in the city. Like there is enough from one location to get started. That's how it starts, right? Like you don't have to make big sweeping change. You can just start with one facility. I've been composting here for 3 years. Like I have proof of concept. I know you can compost clothes. This soil scientist in Australia, he knows you can compost clothes. There's proof of concept.
There's other programs. I used to work at a university where they also had started. This is also actually where policy comes in. So it was part of a pilot project with LA Ventura County. Actually, it was like a textile recycling pilot project run by the county. And so they had to find like different technologies or ways of processing or recycling clothing. So it started as an experiment, which I don't know what the status is right now, but you know, it's like there are people trying these things in different places.
I think there was another project at a school in New York. I forget which one. A fashion school in New York. I think they did a textile composting project. Some students for a semester or maybe a year.
Yeah, I think New York is also currently working on a textile recycling bill. So
this was a few years ago, so I'm sure they've done a lot more since then.
So I know we just talked about like we should not put the responsibility on like the consumers and all, but like with the system-wide program or intervention, it still requires people to be involved. So thinking about that, what's your advice to someone like who sees this and like wants to actually like make a difference in this space or want to start up? Like what advice would you give to them in order to start?
I mean, when it comes to your clothes, like we talked about earlier, extending the life of them. I think you talked about in a previous episode how like playing with styling can help extend the life of clothes. If it is beyond extending the life, you know, it has a stain on it or whatever the case is, and you want to compost it. If you have a yard, then I would say you can lay it down as a weed mat. And if I were you at home, I would cut off the thread, just, you know, like, and it's fine to throw this little bit away, just the bottom ring, because it's better to throw a handful away, you know, than like the whole shirt. So it's still reducing your waste. You know, I try not to throw things away, but like this is the society we live in, and at least here we have a waste to energy facility instead of landfill, so that's better. But don't feel bad or like like there's no shame
I know
in throwing something away. It's okay. Or if you live in an apartment and you don't have an outdoor space, then you can talk to a community garden and see if you can, you know, like either get involved or maybe donate clothes. Is this something you've done? I've talked to community gardens here locally, and some of them have experimented with composting clothes or sheets and towels as like a weed barrier. Some of them have never heard of it, but just having conversations with local gardeners, you know, in a Facebook group or Reddit group or whatever platform you're on, to find people who might be doing this, and maybe you can give them your clothes to try to compost.
If people want to get just to know more about what you're doing, like do you have a website? I know you talked about LinkedIn, but
yes, I have a website. It's my bowtie business website, but it has a lot of other information on it too. It's Sewn Apart, SEWNAPART.com. Sewn Apart is my website, and then you can find me on LinkedIn as Ericka Leigh. I also just started a Substack.
That's cool.
Yes, where I'll be blogging more about all of this and sharing the resources that I come along. My Substack is called Compost That Shit: How to Save the Planet and Yourself.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I have a final question.
Okay.
In terms of growth, and I'm being careful of the word growth. Growth is good, but just, you know, like in a business where it's often like, how do you scale up? How do you scale up? And how do you scale up? And that's kind of why we're in a fix right now with the whole climate issue. But I think just this would be a nice thing to grow, like either as seeing other people start something like this, or as you talked about, integrating this into a municipality or just a system-wide practice. For you, how is this? Where do you foresee this project going?
I foresee talking to municipalities and getting industrial composting, municipal composting, and getting some of those partnerships in place. Because here's the other thing, like none of this is reinventing the wheel. We know how to sort clothes, we know how to compost, we know how to do all these things, just none of these avenues are talking to each other. So there's opportunity to just
collaborate, bring people together. I think I'm very big on collaboration. I think it's there are people doing amazing. Like you would be surprised at how many solutions we have to do something. And it's like a puzzle that we just need to find the best fit and put them together.
Yes. And I think compost is not, it is out there as a climate solution, you know, like it's in Project Drawdown. It's people have talked about it. It's not, but I don't think it's like a sexy solution because it's food waste and it's dirty and it's smelly.
It's not climate tech.
Yeah, it's not climate tech. You're not in a lab. You're not like, there's no technology. It's Earth's inherent technology.
Until we can combine AI with composting to see where it goes. Honestly, like that could be a research.
There's opportunity.
Yeah.
But, you know, like it's an ancient practice.
I think there are opportunities. Technology is great, but I also think that there are old things, ancient practices that we can bring in and probably make more efficient with technology, but still have them.
Okay, thank you so much again for having us and for taking us through.
This was a nice conversation.
So like I'll have all the links to our website and LinkedIn and Substack down in the description. If you need to know more, please go to those links and you can contact her on LinkedIn. Thank you very much if you're still watching to this point. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube, or you can follow us anywhere else you listen to your podcast, be it Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you listen to your podcast. And please leave us some comments if you have questions, if you have suggestions for other episodes. We're happy to hear you in the comment section. Thank you once again for watching. Until our next episode, continue to live consciously. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the Sustainability Nuggets podcast. I am Rarsu Maribi.
And I am Tosin Folorunsho. If you enjoy this podcast, please leave a rating and review on wherever you listen to your podcast.
You can also show your support by signing up for a small donation to help sustain future episodes. You can find all relevant links in the description. See you in our next episode.